So let's talk about executive orders. These executive orders are getting out of hand. So the executive orders, they come from Article 2, Section 1, Section 2, and Section 3, the constitutional provisions. Where does executive orders, where is the word executive orders? Where do they talk about the powers of executive orders? Well, they don't. So that means if it's not enumerated, the president technically doesn't have that power. So Congress, I think that executive orders need the assent of Congress. So just take the Gulf of America, right? We're going to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. We're going to change Mount Denali to Mount McKinley. And then we're also going to, what, take Panama or some shit? So in order to declare war, that's supposed to be Congress. Now let's see, what are the enumerated powers for the president? Well, the president is the commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces. The president can negotiate treaties. The president can appoint federal officers and judges. The president can grant pardons and reprieves, and the president can deliver the State of the Union address. So those are the express powers. Now, just because there's express powers, there's also implied powers. Well, implied powers can go on infinitely, right? To as high as your imagination could go. So when it comes to knowledge, knowledge encircles the globe, but imagination, knowledge is finite, but imagination can encircle the globe. So there is no executive order power in the Constitution. That's very important because executive orders have the color of law. So if the president says something is law and then Congress doesn't pick it up, then it becomes a law just by de facto because Congress didn't nullify it, nor did they assent to it, so they just lay it, keep it on the books. But the problem with executive orders is as soon as the next administration comes in, they undo all those executive orders. So it's Mount Denali under the president, or under the Democrats, and then it's Mount McKinley under the Republicans. Are we just going to go back and forth calling what this mountain in Alaska? Is it Mount Denali or is it Mount Rushmore? What is this? Mount... So I'm going to get on with my little commentary about executive orders. So Article 1, Article 2, Section 1, 2, and 3. Should I just read it straight up? Yeah, let's just read it straight up. Because it's going to cover the first three sections. And this is about the powers of the presidency. While Article 2, Section 1 kind of goes on and on and on. Section 2 kind of goes on and on and on. But Section 3 is pretty short. So let's read Section 3. The President shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the State of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may on extraordinary occasions convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers, and he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. Then Section 4 says that the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. So we don't just need an impeachment, we need a conviction to get the senators to push for a conviction. Well, then that means the Republican senators would have to really be pissed off at something that he has done. So according to Section 3, the reason why they say that executive orders are lawful is because of that take care provision. Take care, right? So the president shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Well, since he's got to take care, that means he gets to just goddamn declare laws. He's not a fucking king. He's not a king. God save the king. No, God damn the king. God damn the king. Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. When dictatorship becomes fact, revolution becomes a duty. The thing that's worse than the revolution is the thing that came before the revolution. The thing worse than the revolution is the thing that caused the revolution. According to Emma Goldman, man's highest ideal self is resisting tyranny. So he shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Let's just use common sense. He should take care. So that means he should enforce the laws by writing executive orders. That's not enforcing the law. That's creating brand new laws. So when it comes to, we got a couple Supreme Court cases here. Let's talk about those real quick. So you got the Little Rock Nine, right? So the Little Rock Nine, they're going to go to school, and then the state isn't going to allow it, but then Eisenhower has an executive order, and he has the military escort the Little Rock Nine into school. Well, how could he do that? Well, he was enforcing current statute laws. So you can enforce the Constitution, you can enforce the federal laws. What you can't do is just create new laws. Congress writes the laws. So if the executive order is writing the law, then that means the president is overstepping his bounds. Now, if the Congress, again, doesn't assent or nullify, I think you could do one or the other. If it doesn't assent or nullify, then it's just on the damn books, and then people just go along with it. So the color of law, it kind of fills in the gaps, right? You got all these potholes when it comes to the law. So when the executive order comes down, well, is it the federal law? Is it the Constitution? Or is it the executive order? I would think that the constitutional law comes first, the statutory, the statutes, the federal laws come second, and then the executive order comes third. Another important point about the executive orders is that they cannot contradict existing laws. So if there's existing laws on the book and they say that it's the exact opposite, well, then that cannot be. It's also limited to the executive branches. So you can say, all right, the federal government is going to do A, B, and C, but you can't say that the state governments are going to do it, and you can't say that the private citizens are going to do it. So therefore, the state of Alaska, don't the state of Alaska get to name their own damn mountains? So if the state of Alaska, if the governor or the Congress of Alaska comes out and says, no, it's Mount Denali, then it has to be Mount Denali. If Alabama, Mississippi, or Florida says, nah, it's still the Gulf of Mexico, because, I mean, when it comes to names, I mean, that name has been around for 500 fucking years, right? What kind of hypocritical piece of shit would you be if you're sitting there being like, no, you're Norma Jean, not Marilyn Monroe, because you've always been Norma Jean. That's who you are, is Norma Jean, and then you're going to go along with the Gulf of America? Give me a fucking break. Have some consistency. Limited to the executive branches, so you can't tell the private citizens, you know, what to do. Nah, you have to do this. He could say, like for COVID, all the executive branches have to uphold COVID, but if you're a private citizen, then that was your boss, that was your corporation, that was the business that you were shopping at. So all the executive orders have to be bound by the Constitution. You can't break the Constitution. You can't break federal laws. You can't contradict federal law. All the executive orders can be nullified, and I think that executive orders, to me, need the assent of Congress. Oh, you say it's the Gulf of fucking America and not the Gulf of Mexico? Well, then put a bill forward. When Congress votes on it and approves of it, then in a way you kind of declare the law, then you got the law written, and then you sign the law into law, right? That's how a bill becomes law. The Congress writes it, the legislature writes the laws, and then the executive branch signs the laws. And then the Supreme Court either upholds the law or doesn't uphold the law. That's the process. So executive orders has, you know, the potential to shape a law. Executive orders can fill in the potholes until a law is passed. But executive orders is not constitutional. It's not the federal laws. It's an implied power, not express power. So enumerated powers is a very important thing to limit the tyranny of a would-be king. So now we have Section 1 and Section 2. We'll just read the pertinent sections. So you have Section 1. What they're trying to say with Section 1 is that the executive power. You haven't defined what executive power is. So just very beginning, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the USA. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, together with the vice president, and then has to be elected this way. So what does the executive power mean? What does it even mean? Can the legislator just have a bunch of, you know, legislative orders? Can the judicial branch just have a bunch of judicial orders? Can we just have everybody being a bunch of tyrannical piles of shit? Each one of the three branches, you want to jealously guard their power. So in a way, if the executive branch is going to order a bunch of orders from on high, then there's also the commission, let's see, of all officers, receive ambassadors, the commander-in-chief. So the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy and the militia, the several states, since he's the commander-in-chief, that somehow means something to